6.5 is on the road here in San Francisco at AMD's second annual Advancing AI event. It's been a pretty incredible day here. I mean, we love AI, but when it spans the data center, CPU, GPU, networking, client computing, and pretty much everything in between, it's a great day.
Yeah, there's a lot to digest, Pat, but we know how important AI is. It's not just technology, it's really changing the world. Right. And so when companies are talking about it, there's kind of these different talk tracks. But what I really liked about today was it wasn't just, hey, here's more numbers and here's more parts and here's more pieces. It was really a very system approach. It really started to put the whole story together. And I think as analysts, we want to see that. We want to see how it's coming together and how it's driving productivity and how it's helping drive businesses and people's lives forward.
Yeah, I mean, so much was talked about, but really what everybody wants to know is what is going on with GPUs, what's going on with software, the ecosystem. Vamsi, Brad, great to have you on the 6.5 for the first time. Hopefully not the last, but thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us. Delighted to be here.
Yeah, you guys crushed it.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, it's been big, and Pat, nothing is probably more on people's mind than this AI number. Lisa came out with a bang. She came out with a new 60% CAGR, 5 years. Was it 500 billion? I think the two of you, where you sit, have to be particularly optimistic when you see that. That's a really significant growth. I mean, I think that's more than twice what we're forecasting. And I think what I've been saying is that's the acceleration of demand for accelerators. It's going really, really quick. Brad, I'd love to start with you, though. As I said, congrats on the day, but your data center strategy has evolved quite a bit, kind of from parts to solutions. Talk about that journey a little bit from where you sit.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, has it evolved? Yes. Why has it evolved? Customer driven. The scale at which our clients are doing things is at the data center level now. It's just there. And so, when they come to us, right, if we just show up with just a GPU and say, here, have at it, they'd kind of look at you kind of funny. So, we've now gotten to the point where we're delivering entire solutions, across the whole rack, across the data center. Like you said, we have the CPU, the GPU, and the network as part of the company. Those are acquisitions we've made. One of the most recent acquisitions we made to get there was ZT. That's a very big piece of us being able to deliver an at-scale solution. And that capability combined with a lot of the IP and the know-how of AMD, we're able to provide data center scale solutions there.
Yeah, it's incredible the way the industry evolves, right? We start off with piece parts, and we do our best to bring them together, decrease the time it takes to get them to market, and try to increase reliability. And what we saw with AI is it broke a lot of things. And whether it was trying to do a training run and the networking didn't work, or we burned out a GPU doing something, and then you layer on all the important software that goes into it, we're shifting from piece parts to complete systems. And that doesn't mean that everybody wants to buy these, but they at least want to make sure that was put into it and very thoughtful. So Vamsi, this question is for you. What are you doing to pull all these players together, right? You've got your internal offering that you need to pull together, but you're also working with a lot of partners out there. AMD stands for open, so you're dealing with a lot of people in the open ecosystem.
Yeah, so great question, right? So when we think about the ecosystem, it has so many elements. There's the hardware elements, partnerships that we have with the OEM community, for example, to build efficient systems. When we think about networking, it's the consortia, whether it's the UA-Link or the Ethernet consortium.
Right.
But I'm quite passionate about software, as you guys know. So I'll spend a lot of time on that because that's where we spend a lot more of our energy as well. And it's basically a strategy that we identified about 2 years back, that we said software would be a core pillar underpinning our overall AI strategy.
Right.
And we felt like if we hitch our wagon to the open community, right, it just goes so much faster. And AI is innovating, so fast. We felt like that would be a really, really good approach for us to go to market with. And within that, what we said we would do is, obviously we have to do the foundational pieces of the stack, but then we said everything that we do above the closest to metal pieces, we're going to put it out in the open so that the community can co-innovate on top of what we produce. And that's actually proving out, right? Whether it's the PyTorch of the world in the frameworks, or whether it's the model hubs like Hugging Face that have started to work with us. And you saw in the developer community event today where the lead guys that put together these amazing frameworks like Triton and VLLM and so on, they're all sort of very happy to work with us, and it's just such a positive feedback cycle.
Well, I mean, there's two ways to approach it. I mean, there's closed and there's open, and more times than not, open is the accelerator for innovation. It lowers costs and just moves things more quickly. I have to mention, I mean, what you did with ROCm the past couple of years has been pretty amazing. ROCm had been around for a long time. Yep. Had been primarily HPC focused, and I knew last year when Meta got up on stage and gave you compliments about your software, okay? I mean, they're some of the hardest graders in the industry.
They are. We get grades pretty frequently.
No, good feedback. Good feedback.
Good feedback.
Good feedback.
I noted right then that something had changed. They didn't say this is great.
Yep.
They said big improvements, okay? And what we heard from them on stage today just kind of validated the accelerated growth that through hardware and software you're driving there. So I had to note that.
And then as I was listening to Vamsi talk about it too, I was thinking about the parallels between Meta and AMD, right, and how it seems you're sort of thinking about architectures a bit the way they're thinking about software and about applications, and probably a reason why you've had so much success working together. Of course, that 405B announcement was pretty stunning. I mean, as an analyst, I was looking at that and I kind of did a double take, and that was instant tweetable material. I'm like, like I said, anytime I've kind of seen it go outside of what's been sort of the only acceptable way AI gets done,
the meme.
I like to share. And so it was a great example. Brad, I know you're on the GPU side and on the Instinct side, but data center as a whole, there's this relationship between CPU, GPU, networking. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I feel like we can't not talk about EPYC a little bit. It's north of 30% market share. I mean, who'd ever thought? You were there like 50 years ago, and you got to 10 at one point, right? And that was the big.
We were in the 20. I think it was 27%.
You got there. Well, I only discounted you by like 17. It was a long time ago. I was in high school. But like 30-something percent, almost 50, 60, up to 80% of some of the largest cloud, providers, AMD. Talk about how that's kind of impacting your strategy, the customer approach, and of course how that impacts your part of the business.
It's good question, and actually, it's been a place where we're actually continuing to learn about this amazing and fast evolving workload. First of all, I often always say at any time I get a chance, I have never in my career seen a workload that absorbs every piece of the computer like AI. I mean, it uses every gigabyte a second of network bandwidth you give it, uses every gigabyte a second of memory bandwidth, but also CPU to GPU bandwidth, big piece of it. We store so much of the data on the CPU side and the memory attached to that. You got to move it back and forth quickly. So the co-development of the CPU and the GPU is very important. And then another thing we're seeing also is actually the performance of the CPU is having an impact. Forrest alluded to it a little bit in his talk today, but we're seeing double-digit impact of performance on the whole AI solution just based upon the head node, which is largely the CPU. There you got the frequency of the CPU and impacting kernel launch latencies and things like that. So, getting all the pieces designed together, as this workload continues to improve in performance each day, each year, designing the pieces together is going to be just the backbone of being able to continue that trend of performance increase.
Yeah, Dan alluded to this before, but the whole tracking down fact versus fiction, right? And one of the conversations, is that, the importance of the CPU is diminished when it comes to, it's a head node, it's like a controller, it's like a traffic cop, it's moving stuff back and forth, and the hardware side, you're super leaning into that. I'm questioning, Vamsi and Brad, you can chip in here too. how does this going to look like in the future, right? Is the CPU going to become more important? Is it become less important? What's the future look like?
Oh, I don't want to contradict you on this, but I have a definite opinion.
Why don't you go first and I will follow?
No, I think it's going to become more important.
Okay.
I think that's an easy answer. And it really just goes back to the prior point I made. We got, I've never seen a workload with so many programmers, so many brilliant programmers, quite frankly, working on it every day. Like you were alluding, you've done CPUs before. It used to be in the old days, we all got to do all the innovation we wanted to do as long as they didn't have to change the code.
Yes.
Here, 50 people show up every meeting and ready to change code if you give them more performance. So as you give them performance in the CPU, they're going to find, they being the model developers are going to find a way to use it. So I think anything that is offered anywhere in the system, it's eventually going to keep getting soaked up. And that's, and I agree with Dan, I assume you're talking about Dan McNamara, that, that's kind of a wives' tale, that it's just going to be a traffic cop. We're seeing the impact on performance, and I just think it's just a matter of time till, as the models develop, they're going to be like, oh, there's some flops over here. I'm going to go use them for some useful purpose.
All right, Vamsi,
you can argue with me.
Is he speaking the truth here or what?
No, look, my view, largely the same as Brad, right? But I might just say it slightly differently. I think this workload's, right, much more different than anything we have seen in the past, and it's all about core design. Right. Now, core design is we've done core design forever, right? People use that word, but it's nothing like anything we have seen before, right? The core design here is truly just remarkable. And so what gets run on, the CPU, how does the orchestration work? How does actually an agentic pipeline get stitched up, right? That's all that is actually just in front of us, right? Yet to evolve. And so I do feel like, having a thoughtful system design with, some elements that are more scalar compute, some elements that are more parallel compute, I think is very much so. By the way, another completely different perspective that I've gained is from our embedded portfolio. Some of you, I've spoken with as well, right? Like we had Versal some time back, where we had a scalar compute ARM complex together with an FPGA, which was doing, insanely parallel things, and then we actually had an AI engine dedicated, like a VLIW dense processing machine, all in a heterogeneous system, and that's proving super valuable for certain use cases.
Sure.
So,
I love it.
Well, Vamsi and Brad, I want to thank you so much. I know it's been a really busy day here. Thanks for diving into all of this. Thanks for the technical breakdown. I love getting kind of the software, hardware perspective. I know it's all sort of becoming this one plane. I've never seen it come together more. And by the way, Pat and I like to say, it's nice to be back in an era where chips are cool again.
Yes,
like,
it is.
Just,
Hennessy, not Hennessy, Patterson, right? So it's the golden age of architectures again.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's cool to be a chip guy again.
Yeah.
Pat, I was worried about you.
Job security.
Brad, Vamsi, thanks so much. Let's
care.
have you back again soon.
Thank you so much.
Take care, guys.
And thank you very much for joining us and being with us here at 6.5 on the road in San Francisco at AMD's Advancing AI. Subscribe, be part of our community, join us for all the content from this week's event, but we got to go for now. We'll see you all soon.